Okay, this video covers section 7.2. So in 7.2, we're going to learn the percent proportion, and that's something that you're going to have to memorize. So again, you may want to make notes on particular things in this section. So the percent proportion, we call this the amount over the base is equal to the P, that's the percent over 100. So a lot of times, instead of the amount, you're going to see the word is, and you're going to use the keyword of. So sometimes we'll call it is over of is equal to the percent over 100. Now another word for amount would be the part, and the base would be the total or the whole. So actually, once you start seeing this, you're going to probably not use the words amount and base as much as part and total or whole or is and of. So you might want to kind of rewrite the percent proportion. And if you notice in your chapter 7 notes, I kind of have it written that way. So here the base is the total or the whole amount, and the amount is it's the part being compared to the base. So that's just one of those things where it just depends. And like I said, I like the words is and of. I think here you go. It says appears after the word of and appears with the word is within a word problem. So I think that that kind of helps to give you a little bit more context as we're going to go through these. Some of these are not going to have a lot of information except maybe one key word, and that's how we're going to set it up and solve it. So if you want to pause and take better notes on this, or again, go to the chapter 7 notes, they're on the bottom of your page of chapter 7 notes. Okay, so we're going to just identify, and we're going to set these up. All the information is here. We're not going to be solving for anything, but we're just looking for all the pieces to set up a percent proportion. So what I always look for first is my percent. If I have the percent, I know that that automatically goes over 100. So no matter what else is on the problem, if I find the percent, I set it up right over 100 every single time. Then I look for other keywords. Of 400, of means that it's on the bottom. Is 100, is means that it's on the top. So this would be the complete percent proportion for this problem. Now, just a word of caution. Unless we're talking percents, we have to use the other way of writing proportions with the labels. This one has percent, so we have to use the percent proportion. So we can only use this one if we're working with percents. So here, 45 of 50 children is 90%. So this time the is not very helpful, but the 90% is going to get us started. We're going to go with 90, and again, that's always over 100. And then I'm going to look for the of 50. So the 50 goes on the bottom, and the 45 goes on the top. Okay? And then here we've got 175% of 2 inches of rainfall is 3.5 inches. So make my proportion. My percent is going to go over 100. Of 2, so the 2 goes on the bottom, is 3.5, that goes on the top. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have smaller on the top, larger on the bottom. It's however it needs to be set up. Okay, so we've got what percent, or what is 35% of 412? So this one we're going to actually set up and solve. So I have my 35%, and that goes over 100. Of 412. Of means that 412 goes on the bottom, and I'm going to put my X on the top because I don't know what my part is in this, or my amount. So because I've got a proportion, I'm going to solve the same way we were doing earlier with proportions and cross multiply. See, 412 times 35 is 14,420. Okay, and then we simply divide by 100. And that is going to give me my solution of 144.2. Now, I don't have a label for this because I don't even really know what they're talking about, but if they were to give me like a letter, or like tell me exactly what we're going to be using, feet, miles, inches, whatever, then I'd be able to label it. So here, 22% of what length is 44 feet? So set up my proportion. My percentage is going to go over 100. is 44. So that means the 44 goes on top and my x is on the bottom. Okay? So I'm going to cross multiply. This is 4,400 and then 22x. So simply divide by 22 and x would be equal to 200. Now this time I have a label. It's feet. So I'm going to label this one with feet. Okay, so what percent? So I'm looking for the percent this time. So because I'm looking for the percent, I'm going to go ahead and put in my x over 100 right away. I've got of 12, so 12 goes on the bottom, is 4, 4 goes on the top. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and solve this. 4 times 100 is 400. X times 12 is 12x. And I'm ready to finish solving it by dividing by 12. So x is now equal to 33. And if you get this in your calculator, it's going to repeat. So I'm just going to go 33.3 repeating. And then this is percent. So we always have to label percent no matter what they're talking about. Okay, so if you want to pause and try this one and then check back. So here, we'll start with our percent. 82 over 100 of 250, so 250 is on the bottom with x on the top. So we'll cross multiply. I have 100x, and 82 times 250 is 20,500. I'll divide by 100. So I have 205, and I don't know what they're talking about, so I'll just leave that equal to x. Okay, so if you want to pause and try this one. We've got 21% of what number is 42, so my 21 over 100 is 42, so 42 will go on the top and x is on the bottom. Cross multiply, we have 4,200 is equal to 21x. We'll divide by 21, and x is equal to 200. And again, we don't know what they're talking about, so we don't have a label. Okay, so if you want to pause and try this one on your own. So we've got no percent this time. What percent? That's our question. So x for the percent over 100. Of 48, so 48's on the bottom, is 15, so 15's on the top. Cross multiply, we have 1,500. And that's equal to 48x. We'll divide both sides by 48. And 1,500 divided by 48, it's like 31.25 maybe percent. And then we're going to make sure it's labeled as percent. Okay? So I feel like those are pretty straightforward. So then you get to the ones where there are more word problems. You don't use is and of anymore. It doesn't matter if there is and of in the problem. You're looking at scenarios. So we're still looking at the percent in this one. And that's still going to be over 100. So we have 38%, and that's over 100. Now, they're saying that they have a sample size. In a sample of 500 people. So when you do surveys, it's basically you're going to survey a total amount of people, and that's going to give you a good idea of how people will respond. So when they give you a sample of 500, this is the total number of people asked. So that's all the people that they're going to ask for this survey. So because they give you the total amount, that 500 goes on the bottom. Okay? So we're looking for the number of people in that survey who are going to be influenced by the price of gas when they buy a car. So at this point, we're going to multiply. We have 100x. And we have 38 times 500. And 38 times 500 is 19,000. So I'm going to divide by 100. So I have 190 people who are going to be influenced out of that survey. Okay? So for this one, Yellowstone National Park has this many miles squared of undeveloped land. If this represents 99% of the total area, we're going to find the total area. So sometimes they'll give us some ideas as to what we're looking for. And so here I've got my 99 over 100, and they're telling me right now to find the total area. That means I don't know the total area. That means that this is the part. So I'm looking for the total amount of area that they have. So that's my setup. Multiply on the diagonal and do it again. Okay, and then you're ready to divide both sides by 99. This cancels and we have our x. And when I divide by that, I get 3,400. And then this is miles squared, so I'm going to use miles squared because they're talking about the area. It would be the total amount of land. Okay, so for a recent year, 6 hurricanes struck the United States coastline out of 16 named storms to make landfall. What percent? So we don't know the percent, so we're going to set that as x over 100. Our total amount of storms are 16, and we had 6 hit us. So this sets up our proportion. 6 times 100 and x times 16. And then we divide both sides by 16. So x is going to be equal to 37.5%. Okay, so that's the percentage of hurricanes. Okay. If you want to pause and try this one on your own. So in this one we have our percentage. So we have 24.7 over 100. And then we use this again in a group of 2,000. So that's our total, because that's all that they're asking are 2,000 adults. And then we're going to find out the part that are smokers. So we're going to do our cross multiplication. So we have 100x, and then 24.7 times 2,000 is 49,400. Okay. We'll divide by 100. So here x would equal 494 people, or smokers, or whatever, however you want to label it, as long as you have a label that goes along. Okay, number 8, if you want to try this one and pause it. 8 students in a statistics class received a grade of A in the class, so we have 8 students. If this represents 19% of the class, how many students are in the class? So we want to round to the nearest student. So if we get a decimal, we're going to have a whole number when we're done. So what we have here, 19% over 100. 8 students have a grade. That's not all the students, that's just the part. Those are just the students who have an A. So we're going to put our 8 over x because we don't know how many students are in the class. So it's like how many students are in the class, right? That's the total. So that's why we're putting an x in the bottom. So we have 8 times 100, which is 800, and then 19 times x, so we have 19x. Should be an equal sign right there. Okay, so we'll solve by dividing by 19. And what we get is x is equal to, let's see, 42.10, that's a 105, etc., right? So if I want the nearest student, they're talking whole number here, 2. Is that 1 big enough to push it up? No. So what we have 42 students. You want to be careful because I know on the test, midterm 3, it'll ask you a question about rounding it to the nearest whole person or whole number. So this is kind of that idea. All right, if you have any questions, please contact me.